Okay, streaming, testing. Maybe a few second delay, but we should be live, as in live, in a matter of nanoseconds. Here we go. I think. Here we go. Okay, we're live.
So, knowing that it just now came in the UK, where I'm now in the US, it's now available for buy and rent digitally already, and for $24.99. I could have done that, but I was being liberal with my money, and Calum finally had the chance to see it, and he finally did.
I'm so glad I finally got the chance to see it. I'm so glad I finally got the chance to see it.
It's been like nearly a month since I first saw it.
Yeah, I mean, before we start talking about the Wild Robot, there seems to be this weird trend in movies. It started off with The Incredibles 2, and then it's branched out to Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Apparently, some films get released in America first, only to then release everywhere else over time. Maybe is that just to further expand on its?
I don't know, especially since it's DreamWorks and not Disney. It would make sense if only Disney, but DreamWorks. But okay, let's get into the meat or the metal of the story.
Yes, get on with it. Get on with it.
So how do we want to do this? Do we want to talk about the plot first, or do we want to just go through all the things, or?
I think the real question is, where do we even begin with this?
I don't know. Like I said, that's what I'm saying. We're trying to find out. That's the point of it. We're trying to find out, where do we start?
Well, I suppose let's keep things simple. We loved it. We both loved the movie.
Yeah, of course. It has this Kiki's Delivery Service for me. Like, with
Yeah.
Doug Walker himself hated Kiki's Delivery Service doing the same thing this film did. That there's a climax at the end of the film where okay, then I guess we're just gonna talk about it however we want to. Then. Okay, so let me full detail. So with the whole her going back and I forgot the name of GLaDOS robot
Roz. Her name's Roz.
Tentacles.
Oh no, wait.
No, not her. The
one with the tentacles.
The antagonist. The one with the tentacles, yes.
Why don't we just call her Tentacle Antagonist just to keep things simple?
Yeah, Tentacle GLaDOS. So, she comes to take her back, but Ross has a change of heart and wants to stay, and then the animals fight off against the robots. And it really is like a Kiki's Delivery Service. Like, this film could have been just simple slice of life. It doesn't need this climactic fight against an antagonistic force. I mean, Kiki's Delivery Service, fortunately enough, didn't have antagonist force. It was more just a circumstance that made it. But just because this is legitimately the closest thing DreamWorks ever had to a slice of life movie.
That's very
true.
Closest. That's very true, actually.
And with the whole Ghibli thing, of course. That's why Kiki's Delivery Service makes sense. And yeah, it's just such a shame that they couldn't and I know it's asking too much, also asking it too much to be no voice actors. Of course, that was gonna be
that was the impression we got from the first trailer, but
of course it was gonna have to have voice actors, which they did great. But
absolutely,
with that chick from Black Panther and
Lupita Nyong'o,
Pedro Pascal, who's Mando himself, who, funny enough, takes care of some orphan kid. Except Bright Bill has the exact opposite problem of Baby Yoda, and I'm gonna get into Bright Bill, who of course, the actor, I don't know him, but okay. And Bill Nighy, here. Good him. I think that possum was the same as that hedgehog, that porcupine from Over the Hedge. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Catherine O'Hara might be.
Yeah, and Mark Hamill as the bear.
Mark Hamill was the bear.
Hamill.
Yes. Got quite the range. This time he's a big, bulky guy who can take on robots.
And he's so glad that he's not Star Wars with robots.
Yeah, good to see him in a good movie again, yeah.
It's funny. This is one of the rare movies where he's in a full theatrical, an animated theatrical. He's usually TV or like. Because Batman Mask of Phantasm kind of doesn't count because that's a TV film and a theatrical cut. I mean, it's theatrical, it's made for, but it came originally from the TV show.
I suppose.
But this is like a complete theatrical. Like, he rarely does those animated theatrical.
I suppose you do have the English dub for Castle in the Sky, speaking of.
Yeah, I mean, but that is still an English dub. That is still an English
dub.
This is an American Western. This is a Western thing, and
good point, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So he rarely does it. Now that we talk about the cast, let's get into the characters, so especially with Ross.
Ross.
I thought it was like Ross, like Ross, like Ross from Gay Grumps. God damn it, Ross! Like, it's ROZ.
I don't know. Other people might think of affiliations with Roz from Monsters, Inc. I'm watching you, Wazowski. Always watching.
So, you know, I would say, since I grew up with this, I'd say this would be like Jenny Wakeman or X9's perfect mother figure.
Sorry, you're breaking up. Sorry, what was that you just said?
I think that Ross would be like XJ9 Jenny Wakeman from My Life as a Teenage Robot's perfect mother figure. Like,
right.
That would be perfect, like, for that symbiotic, like, get it, robotic relationship.
Yeah.
Because actually, that would probably be kind of worse, raising a teenage daughter than raising a teenage goose. At least you both would be robots, so you both be the same kin, so it'd be less weird for everybody.
Well, either way, it's a bit of a weird premise.
So her becoming the mother of this Gosling, which also, yeah, and also a little bit of an uncle, and then there is Fink. I thought it was Fink at first, but it was Fink.
Oh, Fink,
who is a bit like an uncle or father figure who also raises the Gosling too, and then there's Bright Bill himself, who his family was manslaughtered by Roz, and they do definitely talk about death, probably more than Puss in Boots. Like, they joke around constantly with death, like.
The humor's surprisingly dark at times.
Well, what do you expect? This is DreamWorks, and this is after coming Puss in Boots' Last Wish. Right after that, so.
I guess they've accepted the existential crisis of that, and just now they've got the freedom to delve into this kind of topic matter, I guess.
Yeah. I'll say I'll put a pin for it at the end. We're gonna go back. Right. So, there's the possum mother also helps encourage Ross to raise the Gosling, which then she washed up on the island looking for a task to do. She decides to do this since it's a task that someone did. And it's also that she learned that she also has this processor that learned the language of all the animals.
Yeah.
Imagine if she didn't have that and we get to only go off their animal language, which would be the closest to having no voices, completely just, which would have been nice. But remember, this is a DreamWorks film. Like I said, don't get too greedy again, because
I found the translate gimmick to be a very clever storytelling mechanic, actually, because it actually gives an in-world reason as to how this specific robot can understand and communicate with these animals. And obviously,
and it's okay. You can do.
Right. Obviously, a lot of the story will be told as if the audience can understand what the animals are saying. But I suppose when you think about it, there's always been this language barrier between animals and humans throughout animated movies. So now this robot comes along to demolish the barrier.
Yeah, and that's a robot, and I think, especially given the fact that the humans aren't they're kind of and they're actually kind of exactly like what, Doug Walker said. I keep bringing up Doug Walker, but I'm gonna bring up again that Doug Walker said what he thought WALL-E was about, that humans were the great mystery, and that what he wanted, and they actually are in The Wild Robot. They actually are.
Yeah.
The humans are in one 1%, or you barely see them. You only see them in this one other rosin a robot that like teleprompter or like or some. I mean, and that like not teleprompter projector like there's all the humans, and also sometimes when like we go back to the central city, it is they're a rare sight. They're like that's like aliens, like or like and all that, and that is great because that but in that and especially with the ambiguity that humans are in this story relate, and it's just the robot and the animals. That's it, and it keeps that, and that's also what makes kind of the antagonist being a robot also, which makes it also helpful that it's not a human. It doesn't, it's not a human coming. It's a fellow robot, so it keeps the consistency of only machine and animal. Like, yeah.
Aye. That is quite an interesting foresight. And I also remembered as I was walking away that I was making some mental comparisons between Wall-E and this movie, The Wild Robot. Especially with Wall-E, the environmental message was very front and center, which can certainly work depending on how you approach it. With The Wild Robot, I've noticed that it also has an environmental message, but it's more in the back. It's more in the backdrop. I've noticed it's not as ham-fisted as it would have been in Wall-E. I've noticed like when the geese are migrating, you'll notice that the San Francisco bridge has been flooded, presumably due to global warming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and some other big cities, something like I don't know, New York or some presumed American cities, they're now flooded. You see all this modern futuristic technology, and the humans are still alive. They're still thriving just by the means. So that's not front and center, but it's still there. It's an interesting take on the environmental message.
And that is saying a lot for DreamWorks to be the ones doing this stuff. And get back to nuance. I was going to say, okay. It's also especially with how it's the antagonistic force is definitely, even they say itself, that is morally
impartial.
They even say that.
Neutral,
like,
yes.
They even say that. So, and it's kind. I know that a lot of people like Nimona. They like how the story of like, ooh, like this girl is misunderstood and that they're trying to harm her. I love how the story has the balls not to treat this like Roz like that, because Roz has managed to do what no other robot can. She managed to understand animals, understand empathy, understand what it means to be an animal, aka human, and all that. And it's not that the antagonistic force is unlike in Nimona, does not want to destroy her. Quite the contrary. They want to own her. They want to bring her back and study her. So she was even throughout the whole film. It doesn't feel like that. No, they're the bad guys. Don't do it. No, she throughout the whole entire film inevitably wants to come back, and it's amazing that she. I mean, that's what also kind of makes the conflict and also her death or fake out kind of like frustrating, even though she comes back. But I mean, that's a little bit forgivable. But she by the end does return to. I think I get that's the point, trying to prove that no matter what they do, they can't take away
her heart. Yeah.
Like, yeah, or to quote from the Shawshank Redemptions, there are places in this world that aren't made out of stone or metal, that there's something inside that they can't get to, that they can't touch. It's yours. So that she does go back in order to save the rest of her community, and that it seems that she's completely wiped of all of her experience, but when she sees Bright Bill, she wasn't. It still was there. And I like that better than the whole, like, they see her as valuable. They see her as beyond valuable. And it is so much, better handed with its themes. And that is saying a lot for a DreamWorks film. This is probably the most mature that they have done to the Prince of Egypt. And, like, I mean, all the other, like, How to Train Your Dragon and, like, Kung Fu Panda, they always have comic relief or something, some bit of irony. I mean, all of them. I mean, even Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, kinda not really, but this is the first genuine film to take its time with the story, to genuinely like give you what is slice of life, because this whole film is a robot inevitably coming to adapt and survive, and yet thrive and build home and community and friends and a son and raise a son, which this is why comparing it to Nemona again, why they it's hand-fisted at what if we're wrong? What if we're wrong? And in this story, there is no right and wrong. That doesn't. They even say that to the animals. I know you have your primal instincts, but just this once, can we come together? Even when she's bringing them all into her home, like they're all, and they all are. All the animals are willing to eat each other, kill each other, but they all, came together. I mean, by the end, of course, the animals became friends.
Yeah.
And I know that this is what I have pet peeves, but it does not ruin the film for me. That they do inevitably completely override their own natures and become more human-like, the animals, which would have been nice if they stayed animals. But never for once throughout the entire film had detected any sense towards any deeper message about that. It's trying to convey that the people writing it want to make sure you know. I never sensed that. I genuinely. It was exactly what we saw from it was exactly to our expectations. So,
right.
And okay, just remember, this is the same fucking studio that made Ants, Shrek, Boss Baby, Trolls, The Cruise, Turbo. For 20 years! 20 years!
Very true, very true.
And they finally, give us something since The Prince of Egypt that actually could stand the test of time.
Well, others might say...
I don't think even Puss in Boots: The Last Wish came this close. Because, of course, it's a great film. It's a classic. It's great. But to this standard of how to execute a film without any humanity. And I don't mean humanity as human heart. I meant human emotional baggage, like the angst, the irony, the scornfulness, the societal norms. I don't sense any of it. It's just a genuine I mean, that's why I forgive it for its flaws, because to the end it still does embrace the idea that this is a wild robot. And even when she is fighting against the robots, those, the male robots are more aggressive, but it is not so much of a societal thing. It's so much exactly what even the bear said. Those guys are predators. And it goes off of this animal sensibility and that's what this film explores, what it means to be animal or human through animal. That's what genuinely grips me through this story about how it conveys humanity through the animals and the machines. Because I think that's kind of the duality of man in a nutshell, especially with even Ross, with how she manslaughtered, White Bill's family, and he had to find out about it, and how he had to react to it. And this is definitely a teenager, but even if it is a teenager and you can still see as a human, you could still technically, it's still an animal that lost its and would still get angry and angry at anything that took away something from it. That's what I still feel with it. And
right.
So
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Also, Double A has joined us. He says, "Greetings, Scott and Squid." Hey, welcome to the live chat. We're talking about the wild robot, so spoiler alert ahead. I suppose what you just mentioned about what it means to be an animal and soul, I suppose a more simple way of putting it is what it means to have soul. Because all throughout the movie, Roz is presuming to just go through the motions of her initial programming. And she's very task-oriented to the point where she doesn't really see much point in being at the forest until...
And which is really relatable with OCD people.
Yeah, but people with autism autism, OCD, or...
Hell, Bright Bill's kind of like an asthma kid.
I guess
I'm never going to talk about it again. That's the only time I'm going to talk, so I don't feel like...
Cram it down your phone, cram it down. I suppose, she's very task-oriented to the point where she doesn't see much point in staying around in order to fulfill tasks until someone specifically mentions it's your task to raise this kid. Oh, task fulfillment. We shall raise this kid. Then I can go home.
Raise this Gosling.
Raise this Gosling. I keep calling it a baby goose, even though it's clearly Gosling. That's the term.
Yeah,
that's the term. But regardless, you get hints early on that she actually does have a heart that transcends her mere programming, and it's hinted at when she meets the Gosling who she later calls.
And no, actually, may I interrupt? She didn't have a heart. It's that the Gosling gave it to her. She learned how to have a heart. It's the imprinting of the Gosling that the birth. You know how Gosling's imprint on the first thing you see.
Yeah.
So it's the computing logical that was completely subverted once that was the point where like she learned to have a soul. Yeah. Is that Gosling imprinted onto her, and she felt that whole. At first, she was just a regular robot.
Yeah,
she was just a robot that just with a highly advanced robot, and so advanced that when a Gosling imprinted on her, then she became more than a robot, more than even how advanced they kept saying about her. But she kept like going all those animals and scaring the crap out of them and asking it and look how advanced I am. And none of them is like a synonym for capitalism or the societal way or the humanity bad or the patriarchy or any of it. That was just with hell. Even like Fink would like to go to this place because they have that roasted chicken. He when he was looking all that. He loved that. He loved that. He would love to go. Hell, that's what, even like their first thing with Fink is, and that when she had to get them food, which it was a very funny scene where like Fink also his first steps at being somewhat of a father figure, where he's a bit of a, because he was inevitably gonna eat the Gosling and call it a day, but it was through how he was utilizing Ross and how she made his life a lot easier to live and even like making a house that, and also especially would think about how even I know, I mean, and I don't want to say no, that Fink says that you gotta tell the kids a story because they need to be alive.
It's clear early on that this fox, because he never really grew up with any actual friends or any proper love, he has this very distorted, cynical outlook on life in general. So he's using that to influence Roz to do his bidding. So that affects his outlook on humor. That involves suffering in order to make it work, even at his own expense at times, which he doesn't find funny. It's not funny. His view on bedtime story that just lies to keep them entertained, and is this sort of very. It was
that bedtime story that was very interesting. how that style, like, it was very like kids storybooks, but in a very interesting style, like very unique. Like even like the characters themselves become more simplified versions of themselves, like in the childlike dream world. This is kind of what it means by, I even said this in a review, this is what I mean, the best part about what DreamWorks does is discussing the inner workings of dreams. Their best, when they're at their best, they can do that. They can do that with the Prince of Egypt. They can do that with How to Train Your Dragon, Kung Fu Panda, even Shrek and Puss in Boots, and also, oh, Megamind. Yes, yes, I would say. I would say, like, and that is. And I'm gonna go full Freudian or Jungian. That's how they work on the, like, and that's what this scene perfectly sums up. What I mean about how DreamWorks discuss the inner workings of dreams, and throughout this whole thing is, especially Ross's wish, say maybe to just go to raise this Gosling and then done with it. The wish becomes grander. It becomes the wish to raise this Gosling as she grows to love it, especially with the Rosling facing like scorn from his own kind. And again, this could easily turn into a different archetype, but it really is subtle about, because it's not the same thing where, like, in Wreck-It Ralph, where you're bad because you're different, or no, that they scorn him because he's not supposed to survive, and that he's got a freak of nature for a mother, and who killed, and that is where the nuance comes in, especially with that. I think especially with Ross's, like, contemplation on, with that also other Rosling, who is kind of like her old self discussing with her maybe unconscious self, like I love this one saying, what could possibly be the worst thing that a Rosling can, a Rosenbach cannot do? I have a kid. Yeah, even the robot was like. And I remember that a mother who was in the theater with me, she was laughing at her.
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of great humor all throughout it. There's some humor that maybe just go like, oh, especially when Rose was trying to,
and also those little possums. Like, why aren't we dead?
Like, meningitis takes time.
And even one of the possums died.
Yeah, off screen. Yeah, that was the kind of joke that made me go like, oh gosh. Oh, my 7.
Yep. DreamWorks has not lost its edge, or they regained it somehow.
Yeah, quite. Honestly, Tomska would love this movie with how dark this humor gets at times.
Yeah. So I think also, especially with Roz taking her relationship to Bright Bill more seriously, and trying, like, giving him a mentor, and even one of the, I'm just calling it Bill Nighy goes.
Yeah.
Like, where he actually takes interest in them. But I give it this also one of the pet peeves is that the character interactions, like, there was no foreshadowing of this. This guy just popped up and, like, I think your kid is cool. I mean, it's not bad. It's not portrayed bad. It just feels really rushed. It just feels rushed, I would say.
Okay.
Because I think that he just pops up out of the blue. It's just that, even though it's a great scene, it's still that it's a little pet peeve, especially. This could have maybe benefited from a longer runtime, or maybe worked on some of the pacing.
I've heard other people say that several portions of this film were fairly rushed. Although they said, to the film's credit, she is getting accustomed to this bizarre, or at least as far as she's concerned, a bizarre new world of these animals in their feral state, and she has to get accustomed to that. So there is that to take into consideration.
So, yeah. And I think Bright Bill is also slowly starting to appreciate Roz again, and as he also gets his mentor Ving Rhames, that one hawk Ving Rhames, yeah. So and there's this like really nice like song. It's in scene with the montage, and then Bright Bill's ready to leave and go away and migrate, and great also with that beautiful scene of like Roz. Rosin's good also, but Roz, yeah. But Roz like walk is like Bright Bill's about to leave, but like she runs with all the flocks of birds, and as he's about to fly away, and but then she grows more. Her connection with him grows a bit more as she runs out onto that cliff, all just to see him leave.
To the point where the Bill Nye goose even just allows them to fly a specific formation just so one of them can leave a feather behind as a souvenir.
No. And it's also that's when Roz like gives in, like is ready to go home or something. And also with Bright Bill going on his migrations, which also runs into Roz, but it's not his Roz, it's Rosin robots. And also with all the male, and I like how even like in this film all the feminine Rosin bots are like passive, and they even says they won't harm, but the male ones, the obvious male ones, are the ones who are trying to capture or kill the geese.
That's interesting. Aye. Interesting
Yeah,
world
like
building
it's a
choice.
very hunter and gatherer. Even like that's also what I get back to humanity and animalness. Like even like the humans or the Rosins are like gatherers. Even like in a tree, like in a garden ale that the Rosins are gathering, and there's no like, oh, they can't do that. It's too feminine. You should be working up there. You should hell. Please tell you that they're actually, whenever I do see all the humans like working, some of them are actually female who are
Yeah.
working in there.
Yeah.
Actually, when they're not with humans, and
Yeah.
hell, even the freaking antagonist is a female.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is so wrong with Rosin's all acting female and having feminine traits like gathering like that? At all.
Yeah, exactly.
All.
Exactly. It's refreshing to see a movie where no one complains about anything regarding gender. Everyone's just doing what they were made to do, and the conflict comes from the circumstance of things and the animal's relationship with the robots, and it doesn't do anything stupid beyond that. It's a story that anyone can gravitate towards, which is why this is going to be one of the best films of this year, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the Bill Nye, duck dies.
Yeah, quite a noble sacrificial death to get the migration to escape,
and so Rosin they're in this huge storm, and like Roz like gathered all the animals, and with Fink being reluctant, all gathered them into their little hut, and like I said earlier, that she convinced them all to just for the winter to be friends, or to say, I like also this one part with the bear hugging that little beaver, like
yeah, the beaver's reaction just yeah, there were several chuckles and laughs at that specific moment.
And as soon as after that, winter and then spring comes again, and autumn, and then there was much rejoicing. Yeah.
Spring turned to summer. Summer then suddenly turned into winter, which then turned into autumn. Until
and then
one day.
By spring, Roz becomes Bastion from Overwatch.
Yeah, pretty much, yes. I was watching this film and I just thought, picture the last Bastion animated short, but if it was feature length and the bird was a gosling who grows up into a teenage goose, and it had the heart and soul of Iron Giant, and it had some of the environmental stuff of WALL-E. That's pretty much this film.
Yeah.
Also, the robot is
Yeah,
female.
and also the slice of life of Kiki's delivery service.
Yeah, put that in there. Put that in there too.
And I
throw in the main protagonist from A Quiet Place Day
more
One.
Studio Ghibli. Castle in the Sky. Castle in the Sky.
Oh yeah, Castle in the Sky. Yeah, and throw in the main protagonist from Quiet Place Day One. There you go. You're the success.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And so, Bright Bill and this flock comes back to the island, but Ross had to go away before Bright Bill had to say to her, and then the antagonist shows up. Which I still say that it would be nice if it didn't have a third act climax. If this is what. Okay, I was gonna say. Remember about death? I'm putting it back here. It would be nice. Get rid of the whole climax and have maybe say after winter years go by, and maybe Roz goes to Bright Bill as an older goose, and then inevitably when he dies and she's still alive. Because at first, when I first was going into this, I thought this would talk about death so much that they would actually touch upon death. That ballsy to have her raise this Gosling and see it die.
I mean, it still is pretty ballsy for what it's able to give us, but yeah.
But I know this is me being greedy, but this is me being greedy with a point. Because I would love if they just tied it up instead of that fake out death with the Ross and the Bright Bill and that whole which was a nice scene. But I would like it the other way around if it was Ross having to deal with Bright Bill's death.
How about
that would.
Right.
Yeah.
How about this?
I would be so.
Right. How about you keep the entire film as it is, but then you add on the ending scene of exactly what you just described? I wonder how that kind of film would turn out.
Yeah, that. But that would make a great third act. That would keep the slice of life thing. That would. You wouldn't need to change a lot of things. You just have to change the entire third act.
Right.
You just have to change the entire third act, and it would be a great slice of life. Would genuinely be completely slice of life without any that would have skyrocketed DreamWorks' prestige. That would have made this greater than The Prince of Egypt. Probably one of the greatest anime movies of all time.
Possibly.
But I know it had to unfortunately go down the climax route.
Alright.
Which is unfortunate.
Alright. But even for...
It's still a DreamWorks movie. They still have to customers.
Yeah, appeal to the customers. But even for appealing to customers, I'd say the ending still works because the key thematic tenet of this film is the theme of something that appears mechanistic or even feral in the animal's case, realizing that they have the capacity to have a heart that transcends what they were programmed for.
But it would be nice if that would also tie into death. And having to deal with that, the death, and then the loss of it. And then the film probably... and also, I think that we touch upon, the climax enough. Right? So, we touched upon the ending. So, I'm just going to go into this. That The Wild Robot is actually based off a book that's a trilogy.
Trilogy?
Maybe we could get sequel. Yeah, it's based off of Wild Robot. Yeah.
I knew it was based on a children's book, but I didn't know there was 3 of them.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. What if they make oh my days.
Yeah. What if that will inevitably come to that? Then, wow, if they actually go that far.
Holy moly.
They could actually. Yeah.
If they actually go that route, then they can keep this first film just as it is right now, and then they can have more in-depth themes later on, like what they did with Kung Fu Panda 2 and How to Train Your Dragon 2. We could go so much more in depth with what they were touching on in the first film.
You could have Bright Bill being a adult by the first film, and then So, I think DreamWorks, if they do greenlight a sequel, then I think we got a good DreamWorks classic on our hand and good sequels. But hopefully they won't goof it up.
Well, I mean, this is the perfect opportunity. I think The Wild Robot, as far as I'm aware, is a unanimous success. I mean, the critics and audiences absolutely adore this. It's doing well at the box office, and DreamWorks has been known to make really good sequels for the most part. So, yeah, this is a great opportunity. Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. So, I think if I will forgive this, if at least the final one touches upon death.
Yes.
If you actually had the balls to do that. Touch upon the death of Bright Bill, and her having to deal with it.
Oh my days, that would make for a new...
Which is gonna be weird with how The Wild Robot ended with, Rosin went back to where she was. It's gonna be weird about how what's gonna come next.
Well, I've only just heard that there were sequels, so I don't know how the sequels go, to be honest. All I know is that...
Me neither! I just know they exist.
Right. As far as we're aware, Roz very cleverly took her core out into the forest so that a part of her would always remain in her proper home, so her true self would never fully be lost, no matter what people did to her.
I just heard The Wild Robot 2 is legit. It's coming. Wild Robot 2.
Oh man, I'll be overjoyed if
So this is gonna be like the equivalent, the animated equivalent of Dune. Yeah.
Oh man! Man, oh man!
Yeah, the sequel is in development.
Yes! 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 Yeah, baby, yes! Yes! Oh, yes, let's go! Let's go, man! Oh man! Oh man! Oh man, they're actually making a sequel to this. Oh, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be amazing. Oh man, this is directed by Chris Sanders. Didn't he direct the How to Train Your Dragon movies?
Yeah, and Lilo and
Stitch. Yeah. If you let him cook, he knows how to cook well. Oh man.
Yeah, and this film is definitely has done a lot better than the other pretty good like Prince of Egypt like Transformers 1. Yeah, look at that. It has made its money back.
Oh wow. So let's take a look at that. So I mean the charm about the movies like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish and The Royal Robot is that they're obviously going for a lower budget, yet they make up for that with style and substance.
If Shrek 5 is going to suck, and this sequel won't suck, and this sequel.
There's a thought. Yeah. I mean, I think it's to their advantage that they're going for a lower budget with more style and substance, especially with the gorgeous watercolor aesthetic they got throughout the movie, because that way, if they're able to tell more heartfelt stories, that they're guaranteed to get their money back. So... let's see, domestic 91. I'm terrible.
That's in America. International 64.
I mean, yeah. As of recording this, this is day one for the UK release, so keep that in mind. What was the budget to make this movie?
But UK is not that big of a place. No offense.
Yeah, none taken. We just seem to have a bigger impact for some reason. Let's see.
Budget.
Oh wow.
Let's see its budget.
Yeah. What was the budget of this movie? I'd be curious to find out.
It's 78 million. No, 78 million.
78 million. Yeah, I'd say it more than made up its money back. Yep.
Yeah, more.
Oh man, this is gonna be the next Toy Story trilogy, the next Godfather trilogy if it goes in the direction that I think it's going.
Wait, what? Don't say Godfather trilogy because the third one sucked.
Oh yeah, okay. Time out. Don't take our advice that far. No, time out.
First when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. Okay. First when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in with Shrek 5.
No.
And they did.
Leave us alone, Francis Ford Coppola. We didn't mean it.
But seriously, Shrek 5 is pretty much hopefully most likely gonna be like Godfather Part 3, unfortunately.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I was expecting that helicopter shot and kill everyone.
Everyone like goes out in a blaze of glory. Like they got this arrow, the arrow thing from like Shrek 2, where they're like going and they just mutilate everyone, and then the Death Wolf just comes along and it just ends.
But that'll be interesting. Still, that Puss, Kitty, and Burrito are gonna be in Shrek 5.
Yeah. So it'll be worth it seeing it just for the continuity of that alone, if anything else.
I tried to make, and by the way, to all my followers or to who will, I tried to make a Wild Robot AMV. I tried, and I'm still trying to do that. I'm just gonna wait till now it's actually come out on digital, so I may have that shot and find the right music. So,
well, I suppose if you find a song that's that goes into the core central theme about having a genuine heart or something like that, and match that with the sort of genre and tone of the film, I'm sure you'll find something out there.
Alright, now that we talked about the crux of that, what are our ultimate thoughts on this?
Ultimate thoughts on this? I'd say this is... people are gonna probably say, "Oh, you're just kind of biased because it's such a phenomenal success." Well, I'm sorry, I can't help it. It's just that good of a film.
Yes, we are. We knew this was gonna be a success when we first saw it. You had us at hello, and even in Shark Tale. Reminder: this is the same goddamn studio that has Shark Tale, where they said you had me at hello. Well, this film had us at hello.
Yeah. This is...
Let's go over about how many, like, films, like, Boss Baby 2, Turbo Crudes, Ants, and, there's I would say Over the Hedge is bad, but it's definitely an odd one out. Shark Tale, there is, like, Trolls and the trilogy of Trolls.
Right. I've heard that Trolls band together.
Madagascar. That was Madagascar, which isn't exactly bad, but it isn't exactly good. It's more mediocre.
Mediocre. I don't know. Madagascar 2 is one of the funniest films I've ever seen.
I'm talking now about the prestige, like the image of the studio.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and there's the Road to El Dorado.
I love that movie. I'm
just gonna go into all of them. Yeah, but it also has a guy getting a blowjob from a very attractive woman. They have Sinbad. They have the Spirit. They have the Prince of Egypt. So they have Shrek, Shrek 2, Shrek 3, Shrek 4, Over the Hedge.
You know, if I could just pause you on that. I remember just visiting a charity shop the other day, and I saw the DVD case for Shrek Forever After, and on the DVD case, it said, Shrek Forever After, the final chapter.
Well, it used to be. That's what Schaeferless is hating this film, Shrek 5, now, that it's not leaving well enough alone. He's like their fairy godmother. You just couldn't go back to your swamp and leave well enough alone. So, okay, back to what I was saying.
Right.
Shrek 4, also Shrek 5, and Kung Fu Pandas 1 and 2, How to Train Your Dragons 1 and 2, and 3, and Kung Fu Pandas 3 and 4, may I remind me.
Yeah.
And there is, like, okay. And there's Puss in Boots 1 and Puss in Boots Last Wish.
Right.
And there's Ruby Gillman.
And Teenage Kraken, yeah.
Teenage Kraken. And then there is this. How does that stand up? Even one time when I saw a YouTube video on DreamWorks Villains Catalog, I described it as the most outlandish, amazing, like absurd, ridiculous, and unbelievably amazing, like, catalog of villains I've ever seen.
Yeah. they got a wide variety, and DreamWorks has proven themselves on several occasions that when they make masterpieces, they make masterpieces.
And when they make absolute shit, they make absolute shit. Okay, not absolute shit. They make crappy shit. They make crappy shit.
Yeah, that is sad but true.
And there's also the TV shows, like, which one of them, Voltron Legendary Defender, which I do still like. And there's Troll Hunters, which was by
Guillermo del Toro, the same guy who
Guillermo
made
del
Pinocchio,
Toro,
right?
yes.
Yeah. They made a wide variety of TV shows. I've got fond memories of their Penguins of Madagascar TV show.
Oh yeah, and Megamind 2! Megamind 2. But I swear, both Kung Fu Panda 4 and Megamind 2 came out the same year as this. And this very year. So DreamWorks has us by the balls again with how they're willing to screw us over and then put us back in the same year.
Something to keep in mind is that literally this year, I reviewed Kung Fu Panda 4, which I literally put on my thumbnail. Like,
oh yeah, it's Rise of the Guardians.
Miss Potential. Oh yeah, Rise of the Guardians. That's a great film also. I literally reviewed Kung Fu Panda 4 earlier this year, saying that was a disappointment. And who'd have thought, like, several months later...
the bad guys. Forgot the bad guys too.
Bad Guys exists as well. Like, literally, the same year as Kung Fu Panda 4 comes out, we get the Wild Robots. Just goes to show this sheer diversity of the stuff. And now we're getting more movies based on children's books. Along the lines of Captain Underpants, you get Dogman. Not to mention...
which is a very Human Centipede-esque
This would be horrifying, but because it's in this kind of context, it's very charming. Also, there was that Aardman phase of DreamWorks to keep in mind as well, with the Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit, Flushed Away, Chicken Run, and
which are all Aardman still.
All Aardman. Still Aardman. Does the Chicken Run sequel count? The one that's on Netflix? Sorry, I didn't quite catch that for some reason.
That was Netflix.
That's separate from DreamWorks, right?
This was what I said on this video. What your favorite DreamWorks films is about you. This shows that DreamWorks has the most obscene, bizarre, amazing catalog of villains for an animation studio that I had ever seen. This is 43.
You got 43 likes. Oh man. Yeah, that seems about right. You can say the same thing about the movie.
Okay, back to our ultimate thoughts. Like, what are our opinions? Like, rating on a scale, or how this will be remembered. How this leaves a legacy for DreamWorks, and how does it stand up to Disney or Pixar, and how does it also compare with its sibling, like, since Universal, with Illumination?
Oh, right.
So, we have all those, like, animation studios to contrast with this one, especially what this film alone solely says about the studio in the grand scheme of things.
I suppose now that you mention it like that, if an animation studio has a long enough reputation, they're inevitably gonna make the movies that people would consider the best that they've made. With Disney, people would say that would be The Lion King. With Pixar, people would say that would be Up or Inside Out. With
Ratatouille.
Ratatouille, yeah. Double A loves that movie, by the way. With DreamWorks, people would say that would be The Prince of Egypt. Others might argue How to Train Your Dragon, or its sequel, or Kung Fu Panda 2. Others might argue, or Shrek 2.
Or Shrek 2.
Yeah, Shrek 2. And more recent years, people would say it would be The Bad Guys or Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I can imagine the Wild Robot being one of those films that people puts up as one of the best that this specific company has ever made.
No, it feels like with J. Jonah Jameson sometimes with this studio, they're a hero. I just couldn't see it. They're just a hero. I couldn't see it.
And then they make another Trolls movie.
To Megamind 2, it doesn't matter. It's the entire city. I want that rock-crawling boy on the moon prosecuted. I'll string up by his fishing rod. I want DreamWorks.
They make another Trolls movie. A menace! A thief! So, with that in mind, I suppose what I really need to do on this channel sometime is just make a tier list of all the DreamWorks movies, because on the top tier, I would put Prince of Egypt as number 1, and then the other 2 would be, in what order I don't know, but regardless, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish and The Wild Robot. Those 3, I would consider to be the best of the best that DreamWorks has made so far. I think that's how good
and
it
it's
is.
amazing, like I said, compared to that of Laika or of Disney or Pixar or Illumination, with how, especially Disney and Pixar, with how they've been lackluster lately. But if DreamWorks, after all their, all the problems they've had, they can manage to still win us over. And this better win Best Animated Feature. I don't care about what the Oscars mean anymore. This better win it. Moana 2 better not beat it out. Moana 2 better not beat it out.
Moana 2 is yet to release by next month.
I know, but I could still possibly beat it.
Right.
Moana 2 is still 2024.
Right. I guess we'll wait and see for that sequel and its possible quality. We'll wait and see. But in the meantime,
hey, at least it's gonna be better than Wish, because they definitely learned from mistakes to not make it look like it was made by AI.
Yeah, quite.
Even they knew, by now we know how AI works, so we know that it's not good for anime. So that was kind of an experiment in hindsight of Wish. A really bad experiment, which is pretty shitty for their 100th anniversary.
Absolutely.
But at least this AI film by an AI, it won our hearts over.
What would we do if we found out?
If we just had a Gosling go up to a monitor with ChatGPT on it, and then have it imprint on it.
How would we react if we found out that The Wild Robot was also made with ChatGPT like Wish was?
It won't. We know that that's not the case.
Right. I'm not saying that's not the case.
We know they made Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. We know it's going very off that style.
Yeah.
And we know how ChatGPT works because we used it. And we know it can't make that well as much as, that's why we could definitely tell Moana 2 does not look AI at all, because it just looks like the regular CGI. It looks just like regular how it did in Moana 1. Which, I would take Moana 2 over the live-action Moana any day, yeah.
Indeed.
And I'm still kind of hesitant about seeing that, because I don't want to pay Disney any money.
I don't know, Brooks. Disney might have another entry, the live-action Lion King prequel.
Oh, yeah. Well, at least it's being different. I give it that. At least it's being different.
Yeah. At least.
Hey, I already had a CGI, archetypical fight with Transformers 1. That was good enough instead of prequel, with Scar and Mufasa. Mufasa's Scar. I'd rather just stick. Also, now that we take the time in, let's go to Transformers 1, and we're cheating here.
Yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, Transformers 1.
Okay. The Wild Robot is awesome. It's the best of all time.
Yeah.
And we know it'll stand its time, and it will definitely, like I said, is so amazing, because it will put any Illumination, Disney, or Pixar film to this year to shame. That's how amazing it is.
Yeah.
All right, now Transformers 1.
Yay! Transformers 1.
So it's still relevant.
Yeah, it's still relevant.
With Transformers 1, so it basically, we go into the origin. Actually, let's just talk a little about it. How that, how Cell Specs basically did the same thing we did with The Wild Robot. She basically talked briefly about Transformers 1. Let's just keep it more about The Wild Robot. Just talk briefly about Transformers 1 and end this.
Yeah.
So,
this is
it's...
another animated film with a delayed release date here in the UK for some reason.
And it's finally adhering to Transformers lore. It even has the Prime Mover Primus. That is the real term by Aristotle. Look it up.
Oh, wow.
Primus himself. So, which I'm pretty sure that this character from the movie is based somewhat off of that philosophical, like, metaphysical, like, whatever. So, basically, yeah, Prime sacrificed himself to create Cybertron and became it, and that is definitely different from, because in the original Transformers films, they didn't give us an explanation of how Cybertron was birthed. They gave us more of the war, the Bay film, yeah. They gave us more about the war and how, you know, how Megatron became how it was a tyrant and fighting about it, and that's it. So actually, Transformers 1 exploring that aspect that most of the mainstream audience didn't know that well was pretty bold. It was pretty good because I mean, you would probably have to watch a lot of the lore, like, which is a big rabbit hole itself. You have to watch the original Transformers TV show. You have to watch Transformers Prime. You have to play the War for Cybertron games and Fall for Cybertron. But I think even though with how unorthodox, like, you know, interesting choice for this to be a buddy film and a sincere drama about like the downfall of heroism, like, I'm gonna go a little philosophical here. There's a reason why Transformers 1 sometimes on YouTube, there's a lot of Marxist essayists who always claim that a hero fighting against the system, that the society is to blame. But I give it or Marx, I mean Stalin, I mean Hitler, I mean Megatron this. I mean Megatron this. That he definitely gives us engagement on why the way he is. Like, he definitely... And unfortunately, of course, since the villain is most interesting than the hero, at least there's definitely that relationship that definitely saves Orion Pax, and then he becomes Optimus. And it would be nice if he was, of course, Orion Pax, Optimus Prime, is my all-time, my childhood hero. And it would be nice as he was in depth as is, but I think it's maybe it's the subtle nuances, how he's simplistic. Even that Scarlett Johansson, Elita 1, said that you have a good bold, you have a bold trait of your blind optimism. I think it's just the simplicity of his heroism and his attitude that inevitably him becoming a Prime would symbolize that, and then his feud between Megatron. So, nice. Yeah, I thought that is definitely very similar to Prince of Egypt, except, of course, it's different.
Aye. They certainly pulled off a Prince of Egypt where it looked as if it was going to be one thing, but then it turned out to be much more mature and thoughtful than we thought it was going to be.
It's no Prince of Egypt. I give it no Prince of Egypt still.
Nothing compared to Prince of Egypt.
No. That's being too generous.
Yeah, fair enough,
It's good. It's not that good.
Yeah. I mean, the film still has a lot of problems. A friend of mine found Bumblebee annoying, and understandably so. I can see what they were trying to do.
And it's only appealing to the ADHD kids.
Sorry, it's the truth. It's the truth. I mean, I understand what they were trying to go for, given the fate of his vocal cords, but we're just saying yes, it is.
Okay, at least that'll be somewhat cathartic when he gets his vocal cords. I will be cathartic.
I'm so sorry, Bumblebee.
Hey, seriously, what about Hot Rod anyway? He was supposed to be the next Prime, but basically Bumblebee stole his position, like, as the next... Like, even in the original Transformers movie, that it was basically centering around Hot Rod becoming Rodimus Prime.
Oh, okay.
You can go watch that for yourself and just...
Right.
Like, but I will say Transformers 1, especially given better writing and modern sensibilities, is definitely superior to the original 86 film.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, in some sense.
Aye. Transformers 1, I'd say, is definitely amongst the better Transformers movies out there, alongside the original 1980s.
At least it's not Iron Giant. At least like Bumblebee.
I actually consider Bumblebee to be the best Transformers movie so far.
But it's too on the nose like it's Iron Giant. At least it's not too that on the nose as Rings of Power is with this Iron Giant also.
Grandilf.
No, it's also they thought he was Sauron, but he's the Istari.
Part of the mystery.
You know your tricks. Do not judge me of cheap tricks. Do not take me a conjure of cheap tricks.
Listen well. Other thoughts on Transformers Prime? The animation style had a very interesting gleam to it with its environmental setup, and definitely
it takes some getting used to, unfortunately, for me. So.
Yeah. The voices might.
It would have benefited from a Puss in Boots or Last Wild Robot style, or like Pixar, but this was Paramount. Unfortunately, they're new to animation. They're new.
I suppose.
Hell, there's even an anime with a 40th anniversary of all the most of Transformers, like mainstream and niche to the fucking core in anime form by Studio Trigger, and even Transformers 1 finally got their due with a little poster, but they forgot to add them in when they were making it.
Right. But hey, I mean, this is definitely the 40th anniversary of Transformers, alright, and I guess Transformers 1 is a good way to celebrate all that, to see how it began, and it certainly gives further context to scenes like, we were brothers once, and stuff like that.
And so, I think we can end this by saying, next, it will be, the War of Rohirrim. That's the next animated film to look forward to.
Yeah.
I was saying a bit of that Lord of the Rings just is foreshadowing towards that.
Right.
We'll discuss
very clever.
Detail about yes. Alright. So, this has been Squid Bear and Scott Slinker.
To all are one.
No sacrifice, no victory. No sacrifice, no victory. One shall stand, one shall fall.
How can I be of assistance?
And Wild Robot was here too.
Wild Robot was here too. Yeah. We were talking about Transformers 1 the whole time, and Wild Robot, that was just kind of there in the backdrop. Oh man.
Alright.
I'm gonna rename the stream. Anyway.